And welcome back to episode 139 of the Weekly Tech Wrap with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
Well, we are recording on, the day of, the 14th of July here in summer, where in the UK at least it is somewhat wet and windy. Unlike
Just a
the
tad.
Cerebus heat wave that's threading through most of southern Europe at the moment, with temperatures in the kind of late 40s, and in the US, I think they've just recorded apparently the hottest ever temperature in Death Valley, which is 131 Fahrenheit. Apparently there
Wow.
was an historical temperature of 134 Fahrenheit in Death Valley, but apparently I read something earlier that experts decided that was rubbish. And 131 is the one apparently they've just recorded. I mean, that's nuts, isn't it? I mean,
That is hot, hot, hot.
so climate change isn't real, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. It's not real at all. I do think it's funny that aptly they recorded that temperature in Furnace Creek.
Of course. I think that's why it's named Furnace Creek, is it's probably the hottest place in the valley.
So whilst the world heats up, where we have got the latest hot tech stories coming to you. I can do segues too, we have got this week. We got the EU antitrust teams out this week. Not the CMA. They are looking at Microsoft. We're going to talk Twitter. We're going to talk Tesla, Razer. We're going to also give you a little bit deeper look into Meta's new Threads program. What the hell's a program? Threads application, I should say.
Yep.
Oh, what have I just landed?
It's what we used to get before apps.
That's the one, yeah. What's wrong with me today? And we've got the Tech Rat Rumor Mill is back with an iPhone 15 rumor indeed. So where do we kick off then? Let's kick off with the EU, I suppose, and their antitrust team that's looking potentially at a full-blown Microsoft probe. Now, this, just to be clear, This is nothing to do with the Activision acquisition, which last week got the all clear from. Oh no, this week I should say it was earlier this week got the all clear in the US.
Well, not quite though, is it?
Well,
the injunction to block it was thrown out. But the FTC still want to probe that's going to be starting in August, isn't it?
Yeah, but Microsoft's marketing engine are going full steam ahead. That's saying that basically
they are.
It's over. But this is not anything to do with it. Instead, this is a full-blown regulatory and competition probe, isn't it?
It is. So cast your minds back till, I don't know when it was, a very long time ago. Microsoft started bundling Internet Explorer, didn't they, with Windows, to the detriment of Netscape Navigator at that point, wasn't it? And yeah, they were forced to create N versions of Windows. It didn't come bundled with the N was Media Player, wasn't it? There was another one with Internet Explorer. But yeah,
that was back in 01, I believe.
Was it? Yeah. It was. But now, they're now being called over the bundling of products with Office 365, which is basically Teams, isn't it? So it was a bit of an uproar back in 2020, somewhere around there, when Microsoft started bundling their Teams with Office 365. Slack put in an official anti-competitive complaint, didn't they, about that bundling, saying it was basically pushing them out of the market. Yeah, so this is now kicking off. But so there's been many complaints over the last couple of years, and I think this is why it's coming to a head, isn't there? And we've had in Germany, we've had Nextcloud. They filed a complaint with the EU about bundling of OneDrive with Windows. Other cloud providers, both EU and global ones, have had a bit of a moan about Microsoft software on its own clouds and how it's more expensive to run it on theirs versus running it on Azure. Yeah, I mean, even Google highlighted that it's Microsoft's own advertising for this, as it's 5 times cheaper than rival platforms when running its own software.
I mean, effectively, that guy was at the VP, general manager of platform at Google Cloud. Basically, he said it was a tax, wasn't it? The tax for Microsoft, when you want to run their products on other cloud. So you can do it, but it'll cost you, which is very it's an anti-competition position. I mean, the whole Slack thing, as you say, just the complaint from Slack, I should say, sorry, the whole just screams of like the Internet Explorer and Netscape view before. And Microsoft, they're bundling Teams not only with Office, but they're bundling it with Windows as well. So if you've got Windows 11, Teams comes built in. Though that now has been decoupled, hasn't it? I believe in the latest insider builds.
Though I imagine that's slightly different. That's the consumer Teams, isn't it?
Well, but also Teams, there was a question around, you can end up with 2 versions because the corporate version is there as well. And the OneDrive piece, I kind of get that. But then I also think about Mac OS, that if you've got an Apple account, which is let's be honest, 99% of people who run a Mac have got an Apple
Yeah,
account.
I imagine nearly everyone. Yeah,
You get access to iCloud, so they get free from there. So you could argue that, but I suppose the point is that Mac OS is not a dominant platform, is it? In the same way that Windows is, and the
but
same
it's a
way
dominant platform on Apple hardware.
Well, yeah, but nobody. Yeah, but therein lies your point. Nothing else runs on Apple hardware, does it? So,
It used to. I mean, Apple have now locked Microsoft out.
well, yeah, this is true. This is true. But I mean, I just what's worrying here is that have Microsoft not learned from 20 odd plus years ago, where not only was it the EU, but obviously it was the US themselves, wasn't it, that took Microsoft to court around the monopoly of its the PC market.
Yeah, but I'd argue they have learned, because what really happened in Nextdoor or Edge is still bundled with Windows.
Yeah.
You could argue, okay, they're not the dominant, but they're fair. Edge isn't far behind Chrome. I wouldn't have imagined. It's the number 2 spot anyway, on desktop browsers, I should say. The whole thing with the media player. Whoever bought or downloaded the N version.
Well, this you got a very good point there. I think i.e., whilst it was the de facto browser purely because it was present, Chrome slowly and ultimately ate away at its market share, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Standpoint. Now, the only change to that in recent times is that Edge now is built using a Chromium engine. So Edge is, for all intents and purposes, Edge is as good, in my view, is as good as Chrome is. You can even use the same plugins and all that kind of stuff. It's not really, apart from the look and feel, there's not really much difference, is there? To be fair,
no, there's not
on what they are. So I kind of, in that view, you see. But yeah, you're right with Media Player. I mean, most people just ended up using Media Player because it was there. I mean, those of us that were in the know, you downloaded Winamp,
VLC or Winamp, or
VLC, So I miss Winamp. But yeah, you're right. What really changed? Nothing, in that sense. And now
they got a bit of a slap. They got a fine. They had to create another version of Windows, but ultimately nothing really happened.
No, nothing applied at all. I mean, Microsoft tried to appeal against it back then. They had other issues, and I think what we ended up really was we had the browser wars, didn't we? The time we had IE became removed, or was a proposal, wasn't it, to remove it, which you say didn't really happen, and it just wasn't there. I think the only problem though was, I think if I recall, was when they were talking about removing IE, or if you removed IE from Windows back in the day, you broke other applications, if you recall, didn't you? Stuff.
Well, yeah, it was very, very heavily intertwined with the core of Windows.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Obviously, today that doesn't factor. You can remove any of them without real issues. But Teams, I think, has become very monopolistic, and and I hate to say it, I do find Teams now is you're not competing with Slack, you've got to competing with Zoom as well, haven't you? From other perspectives, it's not just one. It's just not one area that they're working on. But I mean, personally, we use both at work, for different reasons, don't we? What's your go-to? What do you prefer personally?
Personally, I prefer Teams. Just because I think it combines it all in one. Okay, it's a bit clunky at times, and there are moments when you go, really? Why is it doing that? But it's got, yes, Slack does voice and video, but it's not really your go-to in Slack. If you're using Slack, you generally fire up a Zoom or something to go and do an actual video call. Whereas Teams is all in one. I can then access my OneDrive and access my files. I can make wiki sites if I want to. And of course, it integrates perfectly with Office.
I have to agree. I mean, I was on a Slack huddle earlier, so that Slack's kind of, and it
doesn't happen very often.
No, it's random. So it's just random, but it's very clunky. And if you're on a Zoom and you're doing the chat notes and everything in a Zoom, you kind of, once they've gone, unless you record it, where do you get? It's not overly simple to recover the messages in the chat. Whereas you're right, if you fire up a Teams meeting, that stays in your chat.
Yeah, you've got it all. It does, yeah. And Zoom's the other competitor, but at a previous company, we used Zoom for chat as well.
You did, I recall. Yeah,
that was terrible. It's not a chat client. I view Slack as a chat client only, and Zoom as a video chat kind of thing only. And even though they both do the other bits, not really.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting Microsoft are doing the right thing here, but they have put a lot of effort into Teams. Teams has become a lot more useful in terms of its capabilities. When it first launched, it did seem like a poor man's Slack, I think, and everyone's like,
Yeah, definitely.
But the problem we've gone now is we've gone from one extreme to the other. We've gone from it being a competitive product that was very useful to trying to do everything and doing it quite well in some places, but typical Microsoft trying to do everything. And also now, as you say, Microsoft doing it, well, we'll just bundle it together. And the thing is, if you get it was the E5 licenses, wasn't it? That got you Teams plus everything else.
Yep.
The Office now they're talking E6 licenses and they're bundling in security as well. And there's another, I think, potential antitrust view coming down that road with those licenses as well. So yeah, Microsoft, I think, have got a short memory on what they're doing here, and I think this time they probably will get a heavy slap from the EU on this. At the moment, obviously, they haven't launched that probe yet. It hasn't actually happened.
No.
It's still working in terms of working through that, but their competitors are circling the wagons, as it were, aren't they, to say this needs to be done. So we'll see.
I suppose even at this point, if they then go, okay, fine, we'll remove it from Office. It's an optional download, or you have to download it separately or whatever. So it's not bundled in the installer. There's enough people using it now that'll just go and download it. There's enough people with an E5 license, which will just then go and use it.
See, Microsoft always seems to be at the minute is Microsoft. I kind of see it at the moment is like not the innovator. They're doing an Apple. They don't necessarily lead the market in capability and product. They see what others are doing, and they basically enter that market. And because of their size and power, they swamp it. Now, I know Apple do that. We've often talked about how Apple don't necessarily innovate on features and capabilities, say on the iPhones, but Apple then build a market around it, don't they? And they do that very well. Microsoft, on the other hand, is always the £500 gorilla in the room, isn't it? That slowly and surely it gets closer and closer to you.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think their motto is just to do good enough. If they can do just good enough, that when it's bundled for free, you won't go looking elsewhere.
No, because why would you? It's why do I want to spend more money for something else when actually, what, like you say, yeah, this does what I need,
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue here is that Microsoft are playing in so many different market spaces that you can't help but say there's some antitrust issues going on here, and especially monopolization across the board. So yeah, look, this is probably well overdue. Whether it's going to change anything, who knows? But it's definitely way overdue on this point.
Yeah.
All right. So talking then of
things are overdue, possibly people's pay.
Mr. Musk.
Yes. Musk. So do you remember when Twitter fired everyone, don't you? Oh, sorry. Made them resign, gave them the option, if they weren't hardcore enough, they could walk out the door kind of thing.
Oh, it doesn't seem that long ago, does it?
No, it does not. But apparently it was last year. So it started about a year ago. Basically, a lot of people weren't happy with that. They took Twitter, Musk, to court to basically force them to pay up what they'd been promised. They put certain pay, certain redundancy pay, and Musk hadn't paid any of it really. So they took him to court, and unfortunately, the court sided with Musk and Twitter and forced those people into arbitration. Now it seems that we've seen same people are suing again because Twitter themselves have refused to engage in the arbitration process, despite having compelled employees into arbitration to begin with.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up again, can you? It's just
no. So, I mean, basically, Twitter won't come to the table. They won't arbitrate simply because the company doesn't want to pay for arbitration. So, say, like we're speaking off air, it's like Musk didn't realize that when you go into arbitration, the company actually has to pay for it. I just don't know how to begin with this one. It's not surprising, is it? Really, to be honest. So basically, what happens in the arbitration is the employees have to pay like a nominal filing fee to be part of it, and then and that's filed with the Judicial Arbitration and Mediation Services, or JAMS. Catchy name, yeah. But after that, say Twitter has to pay all of arbitration fees. So, I mean, they could be looking at it's 2,000 employees. They could be looking at millions. They have to pay for things like where is it? I've got a list of it here. So they have to pay an hourly rate set by the individual arbitrators, to pay $2,000 per counterclaim, pay professional fees covering all hearings, pre and post hearing readings and research, award preparations. Let's pay case management fees as well. So there's a long list of fees and things I'll have to pay for during this arbitration. But yeah, Twitter said they're not willing to pay for it. So the jams can't actually do a proper arbitration because part of their rules are that Twitter will need to pay for it. So these poor ex-employees are stuck in limbo.
I mean, you have to ask yourself again with Musk particularly. Where is the legal aspect here of somebody going to him, Elon? We need to deal with this. This isn't going to go away. This is going to get worse. They're talking potentially millions, as you say, on the table here, isn't it? There could be and
that's just fees. That's just the fees. That's not what you'll have to pay out to the actual people afterwards.
No,
it's crazy.
It is crazy, and Twitter will not. If you've been laid off or you were terminated and it was a breach of your contract, you certainly need to be paid. Don't you? I think there's right there. You have a legal obligation, but it just seems that since Twitter became a private company, Elon Musk doesn't give a monkeys about any HR regulation or legal law, legalities in any jurisdiction globally. It's just whatever he wants, isn't it? And it's going to cost them a lot of money, and there could be, I guess, additional legal grievances held here. I struggle. I know we have a laugh sometimes, but I just kind of struggle on the reality of what he thinks is going to happen.
I don't know. The mind boggles. He's clearly juggling far too many things of all these different companies.
Well, the other thing we're kind of forgetting here is it isn't just him now, is it? It's Linda Yaka. What's her name wrong, isn't it? Yacarino?
Yeah.
Yacarino, or I apologize, I've got that wrong.
But does she actually have any power?
Well, she's the CEO. You'd like to think ultimately the buck stops with her, but we know in reality it doesn't.
We've heard nothing from her, really.
No. She should be the one speaking up here, saying this is what's happening, this is what situation, or we are going to support this. You should be hearing a statement from her. It's just instead you've got Musk
on Twitter, just making up stuff as he goes along.
Yeah. Whereas I think before he's got away with it because the companies weren't big enough or people didn't. But Twitter is front and center, isn't it? Right in front of everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Twitter refuses to pay, and that's pretty much just sums it up, isn't it? Or actually, that should be a strike through. Musk refuses to pay.
Yes, it should be. Speaking of Musk and his other ventures, we hear he's in trouble again with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Yes.
The
autopilot, isn't it?
Yeah, autopilot. Full self-driving mode isn't full self-driving mode. It's come back to bite him. So they are after a load of information from an outlet to do with investigations in where people have died or been badly injured while using autopilot. They want this whole list of information. So they want it's huge, and it's going to be covering another bit. It's like they want a full rundown of information on vehicles, including investigations. So all tested vehicles, model years, 2014, 2023, equipped with autopilots, but now every vehicle ever shipped with it. The software, the firmware, and the hardware versions of each and every Tesla, whether the vehicles have a cabin camera installed, when the vehicle was admitted to the beta program, dates of the most recent software firmware updates. So it's an estimated 830,000 vehicles, and they want it by July the 19th. So what we are now, 14th. So 5 days. But it was 2 weeks when it was first announced. We've got 5 days left. And if they don't comply, they can be fined as high as $26,000 per violation per day.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Is each car a violation if they haven't submitted at all, or is it each bit of information they want?
I don't know. I would go out and say car potentially.
Yeah, because that's a lot of money.
Well, they reckon that this there's a limit, isn't there? There's a cap on this. So the cap of the fine, it goes up to 131 million. That's probably not.
But is that per violation or all the violations together?
I don't know. The way it reads says penalty
per violation is the way I've read that.
Yeah, per violation is 26,000 per violation per day. So capping out 100,000. So yeah, you keep going till it caps out, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this again, it comes, as you say, it comes back to those crashes that were happening,
Yeah.
and the fact that it isn't quite what it says it is. And Musk, or so I should say, Tesla have been very cagey around actually admitting what the capabilities are. Now, the investigation is heading towards a recall, isn't it, of the affected vehicles? That's what
Yes,
this is.
that's what they're aiming towards, isn't it? Yeah.
Apparently there were, as of February, there were 362,000 vehicles approximately that were equipped with the full self-driving beta, and this apparently was stopping giving the software was ignoring road signs. It didn't really understand how to operate around a junction or an intersection, as the Americans call it, and it basically proves the point that the statement is that they're not truly full autonomous self-driving.
No.
It was tagged more as a driver assist or a super cruise.
Yeah.
And there are other vehicles I've seen, some other high-end brands, not necessarily Teslas, that can do the brake at the lights, can't they? Those kind of stuff. If a car stops in front of you, they can move out of that lane, kind of thing. That again is not what you'd call full self-driving. That is more of a high capacity cruise control, isn't it? Really,
It is, exactly. I see one of the other points the NHTSA were trying to make was that it's just the degree to which autopilot and search test systems may exacerbate human factors or behaviour safeties by undermining the effectiveness of the driver's supervision. Basically saying that it's billed as full self-driving, so the users just switch off and expect it to do everything. So they are a lot more risky while in the car.
yeah. I mean, the NHTSA themselves class the autopilot as a level 2 automated driver assist, don't they? That's what they call it.
They do, yeah.
And that's what the authorities, and no matter what Musk or Tesla say, that is what they class the autopilot in Tesla's causing us. And what was it? How many accidents? Nearly 800 accidents, wasn't it? I think is the.
I can't remember.
I think I read that in the notes. Nearly 800 accidents have been involved. Tesla's equipped with autopilot have been involved in. I mean, now, given the amount of accidents happen with cars and the amount of miles that they're driven, I mean, I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to speculate that that's good or bad. But I suspect when you look at the amount of mileage, that's probably relatively low potentially. But that more than one accident, of course, is not bad. Let's be honest, isn't it? Any accident where somebody may be hurt or killed, which have happened, certainly is one accident too many.
Yep.
But and we are heading into a world where I guess these ADAS systems are going to become normal, aren't they? Really,
they are. And I was just having a quick Google now to see if there are actually any level 3 or 4 autonomous vehicles. I think Mercedes is the only one.
What, with a level 4?
Level 3.
There you go. Look, the Tesla for me when it first came out, and it felt like it was. I remember having a go on it as in a car with it, and it was impressive, but it felt gimmicky. It felt novelty,
Yep.
And I think, and I've said to you before, I think I personally don't feel comfortable having something drive me, and I think that's purely because we've grown up in a world where that's not how it works, is it?
Yep.
We've grown up in a world where you drive yourself, and a cruise control is one thing, but having it drive you, our children, their children potentially, that will become normal, won't it?
You're right. Yeah. I mean, I even feel a bit uneasy with the pod parking at Heathrow.
I tell you, talking to that, I was on that yesterday coming back, and it was a late night coming out of Heathrow, and I swear that thing was going faster than I'd ever felt it go before. It was bouncing all over there. I had visions of it leaping off the track. I was like, who's turned this up? It was nuts. Oh, it was absolutely nuts. The speed it was going at was just like, oh my god. Yeah. There you go. But yeah, definitely, this is something that's going to have to happen. I'm not shocked at all. But again, we're seeing Tesla. Not push back on this. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Musk is probably pushing down from the top, isn't he, to don't give up this information?
Maybe. But I mean, the US Department of Justice have also kicked off a criminal investigation into basically the same stuff as the NHTSA are.
Yeah, It's going to happen. There has to be if these systems to be there, they have to be safe, don't they?
Yeah, and I think if Musk had just set the tone right from the beginning that this wasn't full self-driving, this was Super Cruise or assisted or whatever, we'd be in a different situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody would be querying this. You'd be kind of sad. And if accidents happen, then obviously there would be the right investigation into it, but it wouldn't be trying to define reality of what is it. Is it a self-driving system? Is it not? All those sort of things. At least we'd know where we stood in terms of what the capabilities of it were, as opposed to the marketing department telling you what it does.
Or Musk.
Well, let's park Musk for a minute then. Sorry, park. Oh, that was a bad analogy, wasn't it? Let's talk about Razer. And apparently there has been a breach, hasn't it? Now, this hasn't been officially stated yet. We should be very clear.
An alleged breach.
But Razer have stated that they are investigating, what their words are, a potential hack of their systems, which may have impacted, was it the Razer Gold digital currency, so a crypto coin?
No, it's not a crypto coin.
No, well,
it's just a virtual currency, digital wallet. It's not
Bitcoin,
not crypto or anything like that. But it's their way that you can then buy stuff from their store, isn't it?
It is. So, have you got gold? Did Razer Gold then?
Oh, I have no idea. I might do. I mean, if they've been hacked, I possibly don't have any more, even though I did have some.
No.
I have some Razer products, though.
Yeah, true. I was going to say, so this has been first reported on Twitter by falconfeeds.io. And apparently what they reported was that somebody in the forums, in one of the hacker, or I love that word, hacker forums. Let's just talk about it. One of the criminal dark forums.
Yep.
Was claiming that they had a Razer database which included, not limited to, source code encryption keys. It said were available. Now, this claim has not fully been verified, but what we should be aware of that there was a Razer leak 3 years ago in 2020, and that leaked over 100,000 accounts, and these were the Razer kind of user accounts, weren't they? That you or I might have had for the what's the word, the equipment, isn't what's the
like the keyboards, the mice and stuff you've got.
But this particular one is linked to their currency. Now the guy's asking, or person, I shouldn't say guy, could be a woman, could be anybody, I should say. They want $100,000 in Monero.
Monero.
What the hell is Monero? Then I realized, of course, it's another digital currency, isn't it? Cryptocurrency.
It's the anonymous one, isn't it? One that's designed to be very anonymous, much more anonymous than Bitcoin is.
Yeah, so you can't decipher your addresses when you're trading it, or the amounts, or any of your balances, or even
you can't track where it went or anything like that.
It's untraceable. Currently, at the moment, they are one Monero. Is it one Monero? They're called XMR coins. One of them equates to 125 British pounds. Or if you want to go all the way, let's talk about United States dollars. One will get you 164 US dollars at time of press. So there, 100,000 US. Will get you, what's that, 606 coins in a minute?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, this is a potential hack. Razer have said they're investigating, and they've taken extra steps to secure their platform. We value security and all that kind of stuff. And if they do actually find evidence, they'll basically report it to the relevant authorities.
I love that. Basically, we're not saying anything to this until we know about it. So this Razer Gold piece, then, as you say, so it's not a cryptocurrency, as you rightly pointed out. It is basically you put some money in it. That money then becomes Razer Gold, isn't it? And then you can buy stuff with it. And
I think you can earn it for doing stuff, and you can buy other bits and pieces of it, as you said.
I honestly hadn't realised that they had this.
I logged in and I did click the gold button, and it says I don't have a wallet. So
oh, well, there you go. Good.
So I'm good.
But the worry is, again, though, is if it's not just Razer Gold, could they have accessed other Razer information, on customer accounts, i.e., if you or I have got, Razer software. Now, the screenshots that the hacker posted in the particular forum of choice, which they're doing, now could have been anybody's, but it does have kind of interesting words against it. It talks about wallets, payment channels. Now, as we've seen in the past, sometimes that can become from third parties, can't it? As we saw with Okta, if you recall. But I think the fact that Razer have come out and said we've been made aware of potential breach probably implies that this data is theirs. Now, whether it's recent data or not is anybody's guess. And we shouldn't really speculate on that because people's data could be at risk here. But it's just again another one to add to the list, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's going to keep on happening.
So I wonder whether or not Razer are going to have to announce this. You'd think, again, given who they are, it would make good sense for them to make an announcement. Again, if your data has been it, but I suspect if you are impacted by this, you're going to probably just get the standard email of we've had a breach, your data was saved, nothing's been stolen from it. The usual one, isn't it?
I've not received any emails yet.
Yeah. It's very odd indeed. A Synapse, that's the application. Just come to me.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right. So then, last week we talked about Threads. So Threads is Meta's new Twitter killer program, isn't it?
It is.
And this is not. I should state, by the way, this is not the BBC series from the 1980s, which was about the basically nuclear war. So just to be 100% clear, we are not talking about a film from the 1980s, which was a post-apocalyptic nuclear drama about what would happen if a bomb was dropped on a city in the UK. We are referring to Meta's new application, as I say, that is all about killing Twitter. So last week we talked about it launched. Now, since we that last week or so, they've kind of gone from strength to strength, haven't they? Really,
they have. Yeah, they've apparently over 100 million users in under a week. That's pretty impressive.
And Threads is built on the same software stack that Mastodon is built on, isn't it? So it's exactly the same software stack. In fact, it's exactly the same. In theory, what they're saying is that if you are a Mastodon user, you will be in the future able to connect your Mastodon account to your Threads account. So Threads is, it's exactly what it's designed to be. It's meant to be like Twitter. It's allowing you to share conversations and data in the same way. And it's allowed to news information. Now, I haven't used this, so it is available in the UK. It's available in other territories, including the US. We'll talk about the EU in just a second.
Yeah.
The one thing I haven't, and again, please keep me honest on this, do you have to have a Meta account to use Threads, or can you just sign up for one?
Don't know. It seems to be inextricably linked to your Instagram account, from what I can see, because if you sign up, it will automatically link your Instagram account, and then you can't delete your Thread account without deleting your Instagram account.
So that sounds slightly broken.
But I don't know if you have to. I presume you sign into Instagram with an Instagram account and not a Meta account, just like you'd sign into Facebook with a Facebook account, not a Meta one.
Because there were some Twitter posts on there about saying, if you deactivate your Threads account, you then can delete. Basically, if you delete it, as you say, it will delete your Instagram content. But apparently, you can deactivate it and go through a whole palaver of then going through and deleting individual posts. But it is, as it seems to be locked or powered by the Instagram, I guess, username and pass credential system, isn't it? Then
I think
sounds a little worrying. That if you're tied in there.
Well, I presume that's why we've still got issues with it launching in Europe.
Yeah, so it launched back 2 weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so first week of July. Now 100 million people are now using, or plus over 100 million people now are using Threads. It got to that point within a week, which was one of the few applications to get to that speed. And it's very basic. So as with the launch, it didn't seem to have all of the kind of capabilities that you'd expect. There are some concerns already that Threads is being heavily monitored, isn't it? There's a lot around sort of content moderation. People have said that things have been posted and deleted down, but there are other sort of verification that's saying that how they're going to scale, or Meta, I should say, is going to scale its content moderation to kind of cope with Instagram, Threads, and Facebook as well.
Well, you could do the Musk version and just don't bother.
Well, just don't care, yeah?
Yeah, just don't care.
Yeah, so the other thing is that if you're using the web interface, I read this the other day, if you're using the web interface for Threads, is a lack of, if you're a Twitter user, you can go to the website, can't you? And the experience is pretty much the same as the mobile application. Apparently, Threads doesn't have a very good web UI at the minute. You can manually view Threads posts by going to people's profiles. There's no way to kind of look at your feed or your posts. Apparently, that's all working. They're apparently, according to a spokesman for Meta, the priority for Threads is mobile at the minute. That's exactly what it is. Now, I did see something else again, which I wouldn't have thought about, but again, it's important. It's around accessibility. Apparently, there's no support for alternative text for photos, which you can do there. There's some of the basic accessibility is missing. You can't you apparently, unless it might have changed, you cannot search for posts using hashtags. But what I'm seeing, and I've done again from a different point, is I'm seeing a lot of people sign up for I'm going to use a bad term here, and I'll get shot. The lols. I signed up for Twitter account because everybody else is doing it. I haven't. A bit like Mastodon. I don't know. Have you got the urge to do it? Have you done it?
No. I've not done it. It's Facebook, isn't it? So that's dead in the water to me, basically. I do have a Mastodon account. I probably logged in 3 or 4 months ago was the last time. I did start off with, but the content just wasn't there to begin with.
No, and I personally found that Mastodon just was different. I mean,
it's not user friendly.
No, we're more technical than the average user, I suspect. But that I still found it not a great experience, and to use. And you're right. And Threads, for me, you're right. The fact that it's Meta, that's killed it without any shadow of a doubt. I won't be touching it at all. And it is apparently that Threads, did launch mainly with a lot of the creator or influencers initially with that, and then they're doing that. So for me, it does seem like they're trying to just push, I guess content. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now, the other interesting part was that the Threads doesn't have a chronological feed. Now, if you've known anything about Twitter in the last few months, that's one of the things that's ruined it, hasn't it? Is that when you go into Twitter now, you have the following and for you.
Yes, you do.
Piece. And the for you piece is a non-chronological, basically dump of interesting things that may or may not be people that you follow. And then the following tab is people that you are
actually following.
But again, not necessarily in chronological order, is it? It just doesn't make any sense. The whole thing, but I want to see chronological feeds. I mean, apparently Instagram took that away, but they eventually brought it back. Now, apparently Threads are working on chronological feeds. But why would you if you want to make a better application than Twitter, why would you not try and at least mirror some of the better things that were there? Maybe I'm
early days. I think they've rushed to get it out.
Well, they have rushed to get it out, and that launch hasn't gone unnoticed, has it? So, I mean, before we talk about the delay in Europe, obviously, Mr. Musk, who we talked about earlier, is quite upset about it, isn't
he? Just a tad. He's a lawyer. His personal one is it Alex Brea?
Oh, his personal attack dog.
His personal attack dog to write a strongly worded letter to Meta. Basically, he's accusing them poaching former employees and unlawful misappropriating trade secrets and intellectual property. So it says Twitter intends to strictly enforce its intellectual property rights and demands that Meta take immediate steps to stop using any Twitter trade secrets or other highly confidential information. So Twitter reserves all rights, including but not limited to the right to seek both civil remedies and injunction relief without further notice for any further retaliation, disclosure, or use of its intellectual property. Yeah, so obviously Meta is saying, we've hired some Twitter employees, basically. There were a lot of them who didn't have a job. But none of them have worked on the Threads engineering team.
I mean, let's be honest. Musk's view is I don't want them, but nobody else can have them.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, and we won't pay them either. So
you are a highly skilled software developer who's got experience in working on social media networks, and all of a sudden another social media network says, "Do you want a job?" You're probably going to go.
Yes.
And I'm not entirely convinced, though, to say that they haven't worked on any of the engineering.
No, I'm not 100% convinced by that one either.
But I mean, come on. I mean, what? I mean, you must kind of have it both ways. I mean, what did he expect? You're going to sack these people who have done a great job. They're just not going to sit there and wait for you not to pay them, are they? You know.
No, and even if you do pay them, they're still going to actually have to get a job at some point to continue paying those bills.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting they shouldn't go working with us, but again, if you've got a certain set of skills, I mean, it sounds a bit like
Liam Nielsen, taken.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, you're going to want to use those skills, aren't you? I'm not suggesting that they want to be they're all for Meta, because I'm sure a lot of them probably have their own views on Meta themselves. But yeah, you'd want to go do it. I wouldn't necessarily say that Twitter has got grounds to say that Meta's poached those employees. I think probably more to the point that they were there on the bench, and yeah, like you say, as far as Twitter
Meta offered them a job.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. So we're going to keep an eye on Threads going forward. At the moment, I say in the UK you can use it, but if you're in the European Union, it hasn't launched yet, has it? Which is probably missing quite a large share of market space.
Just a tad. The hypothesis, obviously, they haven't said why, but the leading theory is it's to do with our Digital Markets Act come out, isn't it? At one point in particular, because it prevents companies like big companies like Meta from reusing users' personal data, including their name and location, across its products for targeted advertising, without user consent. Now, Meta's own privacy policy discloses that it does in fact do that.
Sure.
So it's going to have to change at some point to be able to any of their products to be to work in Europe, because they currently do it across Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. They all share data for advertising purposes.
I would imagine that the DMA is probably having a large impact on how they want to operate. And given their existing applications, Instagram and Facebook are already there, they can't do anything about it. With Threads, they're probably going to want to avoid any issues, aren't they, doing that?
So I imagine they'll delay that until they've managed to sort out their other apps.
Yeah, exactly. Especially around the data sharing, the bit about market thresholds as well, isn't it? And abusing that, like you say. There are other companies, and Google and TikTok were also designated as what they call gatekeepers, wasn't it, in around this data? And they've got 6 months to prepare before if they can have an enforcement action, because the DMA doesn't come into force until 2024. But I mean, I can't see how Threads is going to generate any additional data beyond what's going on with Instagram or Facebook, because if you're going to use the same login information, they're going to have that already, aren't they? It's whether or not how they can leverage it to for advertisers, I guess.
Yep, target advertising. Yeah,
that's probably more the point, isn't it, around how they can leverage it for target advertising. But I would be interested to see how this is doing. I mean, we've seen, wasn't it? We saw, with the pre-DMA, we saw Oculus, or I should say Quest, isn't it? The disconnection of the Facebook accounts from the Oculus sign-ins, wasn't it? That took a couple of years, but now Meta have done that. I think as of early, was it early this year, or I think it was early this year?
Yeah, early this year, or maybe late last year.
Yeah, I mean, and so you got the DMA allows fines up to 10% of annual revenue for violations, and up to 20% for repeated infringements. Now,
we all know Meta likes a repeated.
Alongside, and don't forget, GDPR is still there as well, and GDPR is up to 10% of annual revenue as well, isn't it? So, that could be a lot of money that Meta could be slapped with, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I guess one of the things I saw in one of the articles that we were doing for research, one of the kind of, I guess, hypotheses around how they could avoid this would be to allow people to sign up for just a Threads account, wasn't it, rather than using Instagram. Yeah. But I can't see Meta doing that. Meta want to keep you in their ecosystem. They want to keep you inside your own. And the fact if you sign up for a Threads account that then becomes an Instagram account or vice versa, well, that's perfect for them, isn't it? Because you're going to stay within that bubble.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
To me, it just seems. I think launching in the US, exploding in other was it up to 100 countries, globally, is going to allow them to try and build the application, build into it, and then I guess any EU launch, you're right, is going to be post any changes in those other applications going forward. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm not for this.
No. What's happened to Blue Sky? I've not heard anything about those guys.
Well, Blue Sky apparently had to calm down their
onboarding of users.
Onboarding. I can't think of the word there. Yeah, because apparently there was an influx of people with Twitter. Well, the implosion of Twitter. But apparently it's turning into another Twitter, from what I read from a couple of people that have got access to it.
Yeah.
But I'm up for it. I'm keen to use it.
I mean, I signed up for the beta, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months ago, but still don't have my invite.
No. I do think it's ironic that Blue Sky has a Twitter account.
Does it?
Yeah. But no, you're right. It's gone very, very quiet around that. I've not seen any major news announcements, anything to suggest that they are close to a launch.
Yeah.
It's still very much people getting their own access.
Yep.
Giving you then an invite code, but the wait list, it appears to be infinitely long at the minute.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, No, but I think the problem is with Threads is probably lack of privacy. Blue Sky is probably, was it, going to probably become some kind of walled garden. I did read somewhere. I think they've only got 50,000 users at the moment.
Oh, have they? Okay, that's not a lot, is it?
You're only allowed 258 characters per post. There's no web app, no direct messaging, no video. It's purely text.
Purely mobile.
But you can customize your feeds.
Okay, well, that's a bonus.
Exactly, yeah. And it's still running on their own data center. It's not in an AWS or a Google or anything,
Oh, okay.
I think they'll probably move to a Mastodon style approach if it takes off, because that's the only way to do it, isn't it? But Mastodon, again, I don't think has quite grasped the media the mass media, like Twitter has, is it?
No.
I've seen a lot of people who have said that, if Twitter goes down the chute, as it were, they're gonna go. They just give up with it.
Just won't do it, yeah.
But there we go. Well, on that point, then, I feel it is time for the tech round rumor. And this week, only one rumor in the pot, but it's about the iPhone 15, isn't it? And
it is.
A big boost in the juice.
Exactly. I say these rumors are going to come thick and fast now, aren't they? We're ramping up till September. There'll be an iPhone 15 rumor every week, I imagine. But yeah, the big one really is by a user on Weibo. Is that the Chinese social media? Maybe we'll join that.
Yeah, we could do. Yeah,
we could join that one. We'll have a presence on Weibo. But yeah, apparently he's been correct before. But the rumor is that there's going to be some big jumps in battery capacity. Ranging from 18% increase on the standard iPhone 15 and 10.9% on the Pro Max, and somewhere in between for the other ones. I mean, I wouldn't turn down another 10% battery. Certainly help.
Not at all these days.
And that's right. And that's battery size, isn't it? Capacity. There could still be further increases with better production on the chips themselves.
I mean, so what are we looking at? So what's it kind of topping out in terms of the old milliamps, isn't it?
Well, the biggest one is the actual 15 Plus, not the Pro Max. That's got allegedly a 4,912 milliamp battery.
How has the Plus got a bigger battery?
I don't know. It's not by much. I mean, the Pro Max has got 4852, so we're only talking 50 or 60 milliamps in it, aren't we?
Is that probably? I wonder whether that's because there isn't room in the case, given the larger camera modules and things like that.
And the alleged periscope lens and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess that's the way to do it. I mean, look, the battery life on the 14 isn't too terrible. I will say, my experience is different to most, generally speaking, because I'm one of those people that run the betas. So battery life, for me, usually gets a bit of a hammering because the betas aren't optimized.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, look, we're always up for a new battery capability. Let's be honest. You want an extra hour or two of your phone, especially the amount of stuff that your phones do now. They're chewing through battery at rate of knots, aren't they?
Yep,
with all the applications you're going, especially with 5G. I don't know if you notice that now these days, but 5G does suck the battery, doesn't it? A lot more than 4G used to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised the 15 Pro will have the smallest battery.
Yeah, well, that is peculiar, absolutely peculiar. But again, these are rumors. Things may change.
Yeah, definitely.
And Apple don't necessarily come straight out with how many milliamp hours.
No, it'll need to be dissected before you figure that one out.
But you're right. If they do come out with what is likely to be the A16 processor, that's the next one. We are hearing rumors as well that the 15 Pro and Pro Max could jump to the 17, which has got a 3 nanometer. Again, that could give better performance, as you were saying. But yeah, these rumors will become absolutely thick and fast now in the next couple of months. We're looking at Apple Day as always, probably around the second week of September usually. So the iPhone 15 is probably already in production now. I imagine. I would be surprised if it wasn't.
Definitely.
So as these leaks come out, we will see more and more of them coming forward. But we'll be there to give you them, and then obviously when we get to it, we can tell you whether we were right or wrong. But there we go. But given the cost of it, as you were saying, the rumored cost of the iPhone 15 as well, they're rumored to go up. But also, but if you're looking for a new phone, Carl, I've got a 12 Pro here that I could sell you if you want.
I'll just keep my 14 Pro then, maybe.
But how's the scratch go? Any more scratches?
No, that I've spotted. But yeah, it's not looking great. I'll be honest.
No,
I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, for me as well. As we talked about before, I do think it is more susceptible to scratches.
Actually, I can't remember the last time I don't think I've ever put a screen protector on my phone, but I can't remember the last time I had a case. I can't remember. So, and they've always been fine. I've never had an issue with them. So why this one?
Yeah, very odd, very odd. I wonder what it is. I am surprised myself, to be honest with you. The 12 Pro is heavily scratched now.
Is it?
Yeah, not to be unreadably scratched, but it's picking up more and more going on. So it is annoying. But I'm guessing, given the phone's 2 years old now,
yeah,
surprised. But given I've had older phones that didn't scratch as much, that's a surprise,
Oh, it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My work one, I'm actually not even sure what it is, but it's immaculate. It's a small one.
That's a 13, I think.
Is it a 13? Is it? I'm just
I believe the 13s. Yeah.
Yeah, the 13s is the standard ones, but no issue whatsoever. Screen's immaculate. Again, it's not in a case. It doesn't have a screen protector on. Yeah, iPhone 13.
There you go. Better screens, better whatever coating they've got on them. Well, on that note, then, it's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. We'll be back next week with episode 140. I can't believe that. Unbelievable. Of course, we are still on Twitter, as Carl mentioned, though we never know. We may be on Weibo by the time this has gone to air. Of course, you can find us on Twitter at Weekly Tech Rant. We're also online at techrant.online, where all our show notes are posted as well. And wherever you get your podcast from, wherever you're listening to that. So please give us a like, give us a share, give us a comment. We'd always like to hear from you and hear your thoughts. And if we're wrong, tell us. If we're right, well, maybe don't tell us, but do get in touch. So with that then, I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening, all.